Okay, we will call the meeting to order. This is the time and the place for the March 3rd, 2025 regular board meeting of the Marshtown Community School District. Welcome to all of you joining us here this evening in person. Welcome as well to anybody who might be joining or watching via the live stream. We'll do introductions of the folks here this evening. Board members, starting to my right, we have Zach Wall, Elizabeth Wise, and Sarah Faltis. To my left, Karina Hernandez and Maria Morales. And seated immediately to my left here at the center table is Dr. Theron Schutte, the superintendent of schools. To my right is Mr. Randy Denham, our board secretary. I am Sean Heitman. We've got two of our student school board reps here this evening, Legay Paw and Xander Stupp. I think that's everybody. I mean, I could go around the room, but that's probably enough. We've got a pink sign-up sheet there on the speakers table for anybody who wants to speak to or address the board during public comment time. You will be given 5 minutes to address the board. Please understand that Iowa law prohibits the discussion of specific employees of the district or their job performance. Also, in accordance with board policy, board members will not respond to comments so that we can comply with open meeting laws. Is that everything? All right. With that done, would you all please join me in reading the mission statement of the Marshtown Community School District? We develop learners who have the knowledge, skills, and positive mindset to successfully pursue a meaningful future through personalized learning experiences. And please stand as you're able and join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any changes to the agenda this evening?
Yes, we have a number of things that were added. One, within the personnel consent agenda, we have an agreement for the hiring of former board member Bonnie Lowry to serve as a substitute principal at Anson Elementary School during Ronnie's absence due to health reasons. We have 2 open enrollment in additions, and then we have 1 MHS early graduate addition. Yes.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Faltis Morales. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. And we're off and running. Recognitions.
So Marshalltown High School had 4 wrestlers qualify for and represent the school at the 2025 state tournament. Xavier Anderson finished as the runner-up, and Nick Wise claimed 7th place in their respective weight classes. Tonight, they are here with head coach Luke Cross and activities director Ryan Isgrig. He was not able to make it due to illness, but I'll pass the microphone over to Coach. He can talk about the state experience.
Alrighty, thanks for having us, first of all. Really appreciate the opportunity to honor these young men and their hard work, and not just them, but our whole entire team. They represent not just themselves, but our team and our whole community, and I think they've done a good job at doing that. So obviously the success we had on the mat this year speaks for itself. You know, Xavier being a state runner-up, our first finalist since 2013, and Nick being a 7th place finisher. Quite the accomplishment in itself. He's our first lightweight placer since 2009. So just that's awesome in itself. But more than that, these guys really exemplify just what Marshalltown is all about, in my opinion. They're just hardworking men, and they do what they're asked, and they're kind to everyone that I know. So they're good representation of our sport and our community.
Well, we're extraordinarily proud of the team's accomplishment in getting everybody qualified and then to have performed at the high level that you guys did. Many of us know what it takes on your own to get where you need to be able to perform both during the season as well as to perform at a high level, the highest level at the state tournament. For those that haven't been to a state wrestling meet in Iowa, it's unlike any state championship experience, and I've been at all of them at one time or another. You can't even get a ticket on the final day, to get in there, and so congratulations. We'd love to hear a little bit from you guys about the experience.
So it was really great. It was my first year going, and so it was a great experience being able to see what high-level tournaments are like at the high school level. It's a great preparation for college. It's a great preparation for just knowing how to work through problems, keep your head down, and to keep working. And it was also really fun. I mean, we played a lot of games while we were warming up. It was a lot of fun. It was a great experience.
Yeah, state was a great experience for me too. I mean, it wasn't my first time going there, but it's my longest time that I was there. The past 2 years that I went, I got beat out almost right away. I mean, last year I got beat out after 4 matches. So, but yeah, this year was really fun. I mean, it was a really exciting experience, especially being in the state finals. That was really cool, just doing the grand march and seeing all the fans there just cheering us on. But yeah, and just the amount of guys that we qualified, we qualified 4, and we're just a good group of guys right there, hardworking dudes who really deserve to be there. And there was other guys who should have been there too, also hardworking. But yeah, it was a great experience.
Well, you guys all have your names etched on the podium downstairs in that lobby forever, so that's cool. And the pictures will be up on the wall in the wrestling room, and your picture will be in the Hall of Honor in the Roundhouse as well for finishing in the top 2. So congratulations on that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Congratulations, guys. Thank you.
Good evening. I wanted to take a quick moment and honor this week as National School Social Work Week. And in honor of National School Social Work Week, we wanted to recognize our school resource specialists in our district. And I wrote a little blurb, but so during this week, we proudly honor our incredible school resource specialists for their dedication to supporting the social, emotional, and mental well-being of our students and our families. Through strong partnerships with families, they help create a nurturing and inclusive school environment where students feel valued and empowered to succeed. Their commitment to collaboration and advocacy ensures that students receive the support they need to thrive both in and out of the classroom. Thank you, school resource specialists, for making a lasting impact every day. And I do have a few of our school resource specialists here tonight, so we could give them some recognition and honor. The first one is Meredith Legasholt, who is at Marshtown High School. Do we clap now? Wait, I don't think maybe at the end. Clap now. You can come stand up. Sam Badkey, who serves at Woodbury Elementary. Mindy Tolis, who serves at Fisher Elementary. And Jaden Sellers, who serves at Anson Elementary. So again, I just want to say thank you all for the invaluable work that you do for our district and for our families and our students. And thank you.
Picture time. Okay, one more.
Okay, hold on. Hold on, you guys.
Congratulations.
So if we could have Mrs. Garza and Mr. Bolivar please come up to the front. So within the consent agenda, you probably are aware we have two very special contracts to extend. It's very special in that I don't know that we've had a time where we've had more than one person successfully make an internal promotion within a full-blown hiring process. I'm very pleased to recommend the hiring of Mrs. Anel Garza for the position of Student Services Director for the 2025-2026 school year. Mrs. Garza has a BA in Elementary Ed and a Master's in Education Administration, both from the University of Northern Iowa. She has also attained certification as a collaborative problem-solving trainer, which by the time they're finished doing that, it probably feels like you have another degree. Anel has 22 years of experience as an educator, 10 as a teacher, and 12 as an administrator, and has successfully served as principal Woodbury Elementary's dual language program since 2013. With Mr. Bolivar, we're recommending that the term interim be permanently removed effective tomorrow, as he is being hired to be the permanent Marshtown High School principal. Mr. Bolivar has a BA in elementary education from Upper Iowa University and a master's degree from Viterbo University in educational leadership. He has served in numerous teaching and administrative capacities during his 26 years as an educator, most recently administratively having served as a dean of students and associate principal at Marshtown High School, and then after a short hiatus, cutting his teeth as a head principal in Roland Story, he returned to us as an associate principal and has been serving most recently this school year as the interim high school principal. So congratulations to both of you on this recommendation. Stay there. You have a few words you'd like to share?
Oh, thank you. Yes, it's working here for a long time, and then to become I had done special education forever and thought, well, I'm just going to do instead of doing hours and just classes, I thought I'm going to get into administration. Maybe one day I see myself doing something different. That rolled into Dean of Students, and then I did actually had all my classmates back and then did a tour for all my classmates, and I started asking me when I was going to be the principal, and it just set a little seed in there, and I just can't think of a better kind of coming home moment for me than to get to lead Marshalltown and our students and, move forward with more work-based learning and making our kids' Bobcat career and college ready. And I am really excited. I work with a tremendous staff and great people throughout this entire district. And I am really excited. And thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. I would like to thank everyone, especially Dr. Shitty, for the opportunity to expand my work within our district. I started out as an EL teacher myself, so I started off with very small groups of students. And then I went into the classroom, and I didn't think that was enough for me. I wanted to expand, so I went into principalship, and I went to a building level. And now I'm hoping and praying that I can take that work and expand it even more to a district level now and support more students beyond just building classroom and small group levels. So thank you for the opportunity. I look forward to working with all of you next year. Well, this year too, but
Thank you.
Capacity. So, all right, we leave it just
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, looking at the consent agenda, we've got minutes from the February 17 regular board meeting. Are there any additional items to note in personnel, or have we covered all the big stuff? Okay. We've got a few agreements, a 3-year agreement with the University of Northern Iowa for student teaching field experience, 2 food service agreements with Micah, one to provide compliant meals in Tama and one in Iowa Falls. An agreement with Century 21 Signature Real Estate to provide real estate services to the school district, and an international exchange student agreement with WorldLink for placement of international students at the high school next year. And then a number of special education agreements, looks like 29 with East Marshall, and 1 each with Iowa Falls and College Community School District. Questions about any of those agreements or contracts? Open enrollments, we have 1 in for the remainder of this school year. For the next school year, I believe there were 2 in and several out. Anything to note in bills, Randy? Any questions for Randy in the bills? We've got some donations. Darren, do you want to say anything? Is there anything to note about those donations?
I think the 2 donations for Woodbury Elementary School were through an employee donation program. And then, as I had shared with the board some time ago, when the board approved the spectator sunshades being purchased and installed at the tennis court complex, there were 3 grants, this being the National USTA grant for $5,000. There should be another grant coming forward for another $5,000 through the Missouri Valley USTA, and then a small grant of $1,000 from the local state USTA. So in total, there will wind up being $11,000 to offset some of the expense for those sunshades, which will hopefully be installed no later than the beginning of the summer this year, hopefully sooner.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Faltis Hernandez? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 7-0. Nobody's on the pink sheet, so middle school tennis.
Yeah, so I'd like to invite head coach James Christensen. This was an interesting thing. I think most of you are aware, or if you're not, the Iowa High School Girls Athletic Union had made the decision earlier this year to split their season from the boys' season. Both have historically been in the spring, and so the girls will play in the spring along with the boys this year. But starting in the fall, girls tennis will be in the fall. I think it'll be staggered a little bit from volleyball cross country, but essentially it will be a fall sport. So as a result of that, in part, Mr. Christensen had invited some conversation relative to implementing a short middle school tennis season, similar in probably length as many of the middle school sports are, at least that are in the fall or the spring season. And that excited me very much because being of a family of children and now grandchildren that played competitive tennis, I was always jealous of the Mississippi Valley Conference, and particularly the Cedar Rapids school system that has 3 high schools and has had for a long, long time a middle school tennis program. It's probably Linn-Mar and maybe Prairie do too, so they just naturally have the opportunity to start playing competitively, especially if they're not involved in USTA programs in a local sense. And so I've been, Mr. Isgrig, James, and myself and some others have been trying to figure out how we can pull this off, and I'll let you tell the rest of the story.
All right. Dr. Schutte did a pretty good job of getting you guys up to speed on that. I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about why. First of all, I've just recently had 2 kids go through Miller, and they had phenomenal sports experiences there, including some of the exploratory sports, specifically swimming. Neither of my kids swam as youngsters, but I had a phenomenal time doing that with Coach Herrera and Coach Gilbertson. And I thought, why not do that with tennis as well? Try and capture some of those kids at that level, give them an experience that might help us at the high school level. And if not, it's at least a lifelong skill that they can play, at our phenomenal tennis courts throughout their whole lives when they're here in Marshalltown. We're targeting 7th and 8th grade boys and girls. We're still unsure whether it would be a combined sport like swimming, or if it would be separate with each sport being in their high school season, with the girls in the fall and the boys in the spring. We want to structure it so we don't step on any toes of current Miller sports. The fall girls tennis season will start August 3rd for high school. And we figure we can get a good 3 to 4 week season in before volleyball starts at Miller to give those girls an opportunity to do both. And a similar thing in the spring, if the boys are split, we can have them start kind of in May, where they can have a good track season and then try out tennis as well. So we've pushed out a survey to 6th and 7th grade students as of right now, both at Lenahan, Miller, St. Francis, and Marshalltown Christian schools. We've got 10 responses back so far. A lot of that just got pushed out this morning. So we have 4 boys and 6 girls that are already on board, and we expect quite a few more. So pretty excited to see how that goes and see the impact that it's going to have on the tennis program's future.
And who are the other schools in the Alliance Conference that are interested?
Right. I've spoke with the tennis coaches from Ames, Fort Dodge, and Mason City, all of whom were super interested in getting this started, see the benefit for their programs, for their schools and their kids. And I told them to get on their athletic directors and superintendents as well to get that going. So I think we'll be the first in the Iowa Alliance to get that going, but I don't think we'll be the last.
And so we do have an action item tied with this contingent on MEA approval. We've spoken to MEA leadership, and I don't anticipate there being any problems getting approval for stipends for the coaches of the middle school, assuming the board approves that.
Are there questions from anybody?
How does it work from a season? I mean, how does our season that you're talking about compare with the seasons of other middle schools? Or would we just not play any other middle schools until the ones in our conference decide to move forward?
Right. That is the kind of the big question starting off, is how soon can we get some appropriate competition lined up? We figured worst case scenario, we'd be having some inter squads maybe that first year as we get some other middle school programs online. But ideally, I think this is definitely an exploratory program, getting kids involved in it, and then hope to have a couple of interscholastic meets, perhaps bringing everybody from that IAC North Division together in Marshalltown, since we have the court space and facility to do that a couple times a year, and we can match kids up with appropriate levels, so nobody's getting embarrassed or having not a good experience.
Yeah, those 3 school districts that James mentioned have huge, rich histories in boys and girls tennis. And so I think particularly after we would take formal action and James communicates that back with them, that they'll likely jump on board pretty quickly as well.
Yep. That's the assumption, hopefully.
But you'd anticipate starting in the fall, right?
This fall, correct.
So for practice, will that be at the high school?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the transportation for Miller kids during the summer is something that we're trying to explore. You know, how to get that done really well. The spring season, we could use busing, but during the summer, yeah, we recognize that there might be some issues there. So we're looking into potential ways to solve that.
Yeah, the splitting of the seasons for the high school just makes it possible to have court space that the middle school can also be practicing, and I'm sure receiving some assistance from high school kids with the younger kids and that sort of thing too. So.
Right, that we see it as a good opportunity to kind of build a bridge between, you know, those middle school kids and the high school kids, where, you know, some of our high school kids can take an active role in coaching and mentoring those kids.
How long is the season going to last typically?
It would depend on the start date, both of school and of when they allow us to start sports, but right around 3 to 4 weeks.
Are you looking, you said in May, be it May or June?
So it would be August 3rd until the start of the volleyball season for the girls, and perhaps the boys as well, if
Okay.
that would go together.
So there would still be that split season?
Yes, yep, they'd still have the volleyball or cross-country opportunity as well.
But they'd be at the same time, girls and boys?
That is one option, to have both boys and girls together. I think it just depends on how many kids sign up. If we have 30 of each, then I think it would be probably best for those coaches if we split them up. But and if we have 25, 30 kids, that would be manageable to do it in a combined season.
What made you decide to do this?
I think number one, we have the opportunity to provide that opportunity to kids to learn a game at that level. You know, selfishly as a tennis coach, you know, when we have, you know, the kids have opportunities to play all of those sports at the middle school level, and they don't in the sport that you coach, and, you know, you want to see them have that opportunity as well. In order to give them a taste of what they can experience at the high school as well.
I'm excited to see this. I mean, I think everybody knows it feels like we have a disconnect, whether it was tennis before or even soccer, baseball, softball, where kids stop playing because there's not a program, and it's hard to get them maybe come back.
Right.
So I think there's a great opportunity here.
Yeah, we do see that sometimes with some of our summer kids that play tennis, and, you know, third through sixth grade, and then, you know, I don't see them for a couple of years, and, you know, sometimes I get them out in high school, sometimes I don't, and I think this will build some continuity.
I think the other thing is that it provides Marshalltown kids at a younger age to get exposed to interscholastic competition. You know, many of the tennis players in other communities, particularly if they have the means, are playing all summer long in tournaments in Iowa or the Midwest, and sometimes even nationally. And that's always been a challenge for us, whether it's club volleyball, club soccer, whatever, because it takes money in order to do that, a lot of it. So this provides an opportunity at an earlier age. Lenahan's done a good job of exposing kids through their intramural program to the sport. We even have, I believe, some opportunity at the elementary level for them to become familiar with it in a developmentally appropriate way. But really getting a taste of that competition locally, which James does host a couple summer tournaments on our courts, and there are ways for kids to have the cost for that defrayed. Yep. If families pursue that. But this just provides an opportunity for them to play at a little more advanced level before they hit high school, and have that be their first interscholastic competition.
It seems like the other schools are interested though, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All three of them responded to my initial email within about 3 minutes. And
Why just three? Why not more?
those are just the three teams in our division that have tennis. Waterloo East does not have a tennis program currently. But yeah, the next step is to contact the metro schools to see if they're interested as well.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Great, thanks for having me tonight.
Thank you.
We need or is there a motion to approve the addition of middle school tennis coach stipends as presented and pending approval from the Marshtown Education Association?
So moved.
Second.
Wall, who wants to take it? Stanley. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries 7-0. Thanks, James. Mark? Jennifer?
Perfect.
All right. Well, thank you for having us this evening. We're going to go over a lot of things. We're going to focus a little bit on our intervention system also to give a little bit of depth on that and see if any questions come from that. And I know some of this stuff we went over in detail also at our board visit with a few of you that were there on Wednesday. So we'll run through these and then see if there's any other questions that come up. So the focus here is really giving an idea of our Title I intervention system, which really helps us to meet the needs of students. We're looking at multiple pieces of data. And when we look at our student selection process, those of you who are there on Wednesday, we do use a lot of different pieces of data. We at Fisher still have a data wall that we use, and we meet with teachers regularly to update that data. But then we're looking at those pieces. What is it that students need? And we're looking at the initial screening data, but then we also have a diagnostic that we use through Really Great Reading to help us dig deeper to find what are those pieces that they have some skills they're missing over here, and we try to put it all together. We have Really Great Reading is our main instructional materials that we use for our Title I intervention system. When I first started, Really Great Reading wasn't really used in the district, and then we kind of built that up over time, and this has been a process that's kind of evolved over several years. This is my 8th year here. And we started off, there's different kits that we use, et cetera, and we were sharing things. So now we have built up materials and supplies and all the things that we need. So we are able to move that across as needed and make sure we have all of the materials. And then looking at the Really Great Reading grouping matrix. So we use CFAs within the title group, and I know they meet once per cycle, and Jennifer helps lead that district-wide. And we're really looking at what is it that students need within title. So we have the process for students that need title interventions, and then we also have a process within title to help narrow down the needs. And then we specifically on that grouping matrix, there's a pretty comprehensive system that Really Great Reading has and helps us to determine what is it those students need. And as they're in the title intervention, we're able to dig deeper into those needs and group students accordingly.
Perfect. So like Mark said, we have a process
for selecting students. This is the same process across all of our elementary buildings. So fall, winter, and spring, students are given the FAST screener. Just like it says, it's a screener. It's just a quick snapshot to measure, are students progressing where they need to be? Do we have a little bit of concern, or is there a bigger concern that we need to look at? So once students are given the screener, on that second bullet there, if you click that analyzes the data, I then go grade level by grade level, and you can click on like first grade if you want to. I go grade level by grade level once that data's in, and I've obviously blocked the names out for this purpose, but I go ahead and enter any students that were not proficient, because that tells us we need to dig deeper and see if they need our Title I intervention. So once I complete each of those tabs with the student names and the teacher, I go ahead and send that to ELL to mark if they're ELL, because you'll see that impacts how we group during that MTSS time. And then our title teachers, once the grade level tab is ready, they start giving that diagnostic assessment, like Mark said, through really great reading, that digs deeper to help us know like how severe, if you will, is their decoding deficit in the area of phonics that we need to look at. So that's what then falls out in category L in the fall. And then when you scroll over, you'll see we have like winter data in there too, and some of the other composite data that comes from FAST. So then if you go back to that other slide, once that's all in there for each grade level, then Mark and I are able to meet with the title teachers. We go ahead and sort all of that data and get those kids in groups by those numbers. We want to keep them as close to the number as possible. So get our 8s together, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, we can really serve in the classroom. This is just an example. You probably saw some color coding on student names on there. It gets a little more complicated in the winter because we're looking at, are they not proficient in a couple testing windows? Do they have a mix of proficiency and stuff? So that just helps us when we're digging into the data. And then once that's complete, if you go back to that main slide there is, it's analyzed, and then on the bottom there where it says groups, this is where the puzzle really comes. We have a 45-minute time chunk, and in that, you can see like Fisher, we have 2.5 title teachers we share with Anson. So there's some groups where we have 3 teachers for ELL, and sometimes they push into preschool. So there's some slots that are blocked there. We start plugging student names in here so we know who goes where in the different time chunks. And then we push this out to teachers, because if we have a student who is title but not ELL, then we use our data in the classroom for the teachers to fill that other spot. And some kids receive title and ELL, and then we obviously have some kids that don't need either of those services. So then during that MTSS time, we use data in the classroom again. So this is just an example of how we sort them and then determine like the focus area for their group. Again, based on the data, we go into our materials and look, depending on the number on the diagnostic, where we need to start them and look deeper at that information so we get the right intervention in place for them. So I'll let Mark talk about the instructional materials that we use.
Sure. So a little overview on some of the things that we use in title and some in the classroom as well. The Haggerty and Kilpatrick, those are different warm-up materials that we use the CFA information specifically for title. A lot of that really is phonemic awareness, but there's some other components where we're really digging into specific skills based on that data. And then really great reading, which those of you who were there on Wednesday got to see a couple lessons in action. But really, they typically are, each unit is 1 week, and they go through like a 5-day cycle where they're looking at kind of an overview on day 1 with some different word work, some reading or heart words, and then they have a phonemic awareness day, then a phonics day. Day 4 is kind of an extension of that, and then some additional reading or word sorts or word work, and then 5 is some other application. And they typically use that format for all of these. Countdown typically is more for kindergarten. Blast is first grade, and HD Word 2nd grade. But we do have students, that are in, say, 3rd and 4th grade that we, based on the data, they're still missing skills in Blast. So we're not just moving them along, we're really trying to fill those gaps. We know that when they get to like Lenahan and Miller, the assumption is that these foundational skills are solid. So we're really working to make sure that we are not missing anything and filling as many of those gaps as we can. So this system really helps us to do that.
And then to ensure that we're filling those gaps, our Title I team across our elementary buildings, our PLC has really grown over the last few years. We do a lot of work with that grouping matrix that was on there first, with the numbers to make sure that our kids are progressing. If they're at an 8, they might not be benchmark yet, but if we move them up to a 6, we're headed in the right direction. So we look at that data across our buildings to make sure we have the right things in place. And then with our Title PLC, we've done a lot of standards unpacking around the foundational skills. We have 2 title teachers that lead that, and I support them. We do some of that within this PLC as well as some of our Monday professional development days. And then you can just see if you click on one of those that says RF, any one of those. That's just an example of where that standard is falling in that unit for them. You can see where it's introduced, and then they've done some work there in column J. We determine a quick CFA that we can give the kids to make sure they're progressing in that skill, because this curriculum is saying, they need those skills to be a reader and fill those gaps. So we want to make sure once they're in the group that we're monitoring that. And then if you go back, there's a linked CFA document. That one that says yes. This is just an example. All of our title teachers use this as well, throughout the week with their lessons. Again, I blacked the names, but you can see through there, we're looking at those different CFAs that they determine in a quick yes or no. Can the students do that? And there's some notes in there, maybe what kids are missing, which like Mark alluded to, then that helps us with those conversations of what else we need to do in that group to make sure that we're filling those skills for those kids. So we are really intentional with our data and monitoring the progress to ensure that we're filling those gaps and continuing to try to move kids towards benchmark on those screeners.
So that's a lot of detailed information, as you can see, but like I said, this is my 8th year, and I think we, as both an elementary school and I think elementary system, we've definitely come a long way. As you can see, it's pretty intricate, but it takes a lot of time and planning, and I think as an elementary system, with the help of CPDLs and Shauna, a lot of that PD time is differentiated so that title team can really dig in. Okay, what's our next step? And this has been a years in the making. And then at Fisher, we're just a part of that overall system. So it's taken some time, but it definitely is good. So this slide and the next slide is just a little bit of data information where we're at in the winter. I would say kindergarten definitely stands out. Went from 35% proficient to 88% proficient. I think we had, 6 kids on the data wall that are not proficient. So quite a huge jump there. So we're excited about that, and we still have things that we're working on and filling gaps, but definitely moving in the right direction. And then the next slide. So math, as we know, have a new math curriculum this year, and so there's still some different learning components there that we're digging into, but that we've seen a lot of great things through the curriculum, and then we also, using our PLC process, we're looking at filling those gaps as well. With our Title I, we do not use that as an elementary system with math at this point, so we do use our PLC process to help fill some of those gaps as well. Here we have a lot of positives, but I know first grade has really dug into the curriculum and using MathFlex, and they've had quite a bit of a good jump there to 82%. So still learning, and I know there's many PD opportunities that we've had throughout this year and coming up. So obviously don't know every single thing about it, but teachers are always willing to learn and dig in. So it's exciting, and it's been very positive for us. So
our teachers were excited too as they reviewed their math SMART goals. You can see on that last bullet, There's, for the math, it'll show like that they're proficient, and there's also a band for college and career pathway. So in the percentage, it's still showing that those are our proficient kids, but we move kids that were proficient over to that college and career pathway, which is exciting. And you can see that of those kids in 2nd through 4th, 82 of them were college and career pathway. So our teachers were excited about that movement as well, with those kids who are already benchmark and still making growth.
And then just a couple other tidbits of info. Those who were there on Wednesday, we did stop in Carla Saxton's room. New to Fisher this year, we have the kind of quote level 3 program, our alternate assessment program, with Susan Arifi and Carla Saxton, who had been at different buildings last year. So new to Fisher, new experience for our students and working to support them. And we have recently, Nicole Gahn is very helpful in kind of coordinating things in our partnership with Axis through ABA therapy. And that's pretty new, honestly, within the last 2 months. But now there's regular meetings set up, and there's a lot of positives coming from that. I think when people stopped in, there were some people from Axis. They come in on, I think, multiple days a week, probably 2 days a week for one student, 2 days a week for another student, and they're really digging into very specific components for those students who have very high needs, but dissecting, okay, where do these students need, where do we need to hone in? It also helps our paraeducators to understand, okay, how are we communicating? How do we collect this data? So that's been a great partnership, very new, but I know that we're looking at, okay, how do we leverage this partnership, as well as looking into summer and then going into next year. So that's been very positive. And then I know Mindy, who was recognized earlier, she's awesome at building connections and bringing people in on our different family nights. We have a family engagement night coming up, partnering with the Science Center, ISU Extension with some STEM activities, Marshall County Department of Health with some dental and other physical health things. So there's going to be different stations. We have Beth Custer is going to be doing some things with chess and bringing in that XLP component. So we're excited. We have a lot of fun things coming up, and we're going to keep learning and growing and doing all the fun things. So
When is that?
I am blanking. I'm pretty sure it's in March, right?
I'll look at my calendar.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
You will know.
Yep, just a second.
And I know we also, speaking of Liz, at the beginning of the year, we did, the last 2 years, we've done a fall scoop where we, it was kind of towards the beginning of the year, we did ice cream and some other different activities at the beginning of the year to get families in and feeling comfortable and excited about the school year. So that was positive. And then this one is kind of a STEM geared, where the Science Center they're going to do an initial presentation on, I think it's electricity, and then kids can branch out and go to different stations and check things out. So
I can't find it.
I was gonna say, I
I'll
don't
find
see it either.
I saw it come through.
I saw the book fair.
It's somewhere.
We'll find it.
So
In the zoo.
Questions from anybody?
Well, I just appreciate the time you took with us as board members to walk through, and year over year, your school stands out, data driven. It resonates with those kids. I'm very proud of how you guys have been doing.
Thank you.
thank you.
Well, Jen, I don't know if you remember when I came to district 9 years ago, but one of the first things I was invited to do was come sit in on a number of data team meetings that Vicki had put together, and I was so impressed with where you guys were at that time in terms of looking at data and developing interventions in MTSS to move the bar. And then since Mark has been here, your team has just taken that to a whole different level. I'm sure that there's got to be a PLC designation coming sometime soon out of that. But it's just, and our board members were able to see, particularly when they walked into the war room, the data room, because you're still doing it, physically on whiteboards and stuff, that there's a lot that goes into that. And then knowing that that information rolls into those weekly meetings that the teachers have together to talk about how truly to meet the needs of all kids. And you two are the lead of that. So congratulations on the great work.
We truly have amazing staff who are willing to dig in and use that, and they believe in the work and have a lot of collective efficacy. So we're really fortunate.
One thing I was going to mention, you asked about, is there a digital component? So there's the digital side. So as you walk in, we have that physical like pictures and representations, which help us to know, okay, then we go to this endless amounts of spreadsheets. So there's lots of information out there, and just try to use that for lots of different purposes. So
Liz is still looking. We might have to get
Yeah,
back
I'll
to you.
find it. I'll email the board once I find it.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Good evening. Excited to bring Val Corson up, our CPDL for social emotional learning. And normally this is Matt's job, but we know that Matt's not with us. And she has been, I can't tell you how grateful and appreciative I am of you for keeping the SEL boat afloat while we're without Matt. And I think you're going to really enjoy hearing all of her updates.
Thank you, Shauna. All right, so for tonight's presentation, just want to review, because Matt always said we had to, the vision for social emotional learning. And it's to actively promote social emotional learning through providing high quality teaching and learning experiences on social emotional development. Tonight's presentation, I'm really just going to highlight 3 areas for you. I'm not going to get too chatty and talky because I got to keep it under 10 minutes. So the highlights, literally highlights for tonight is we're going to talk about 5-5. We now have all elementaries doing 5-5. If you remember from last year, Woodbury was the last one to be able to implement 5-5, and so they are in their first year of implementation. So we will talk briefly about that. Then we're going to go into responsive classroom. Our, again, elementary focus, but it's our second year of having our COFV visits, which is when we have a consultant from Responsive Classroom come in and just kind of, she spends the whole day in the school. She gives us feedback on where we are with our implementation process. So we're excited because now we've had her come back for a second year, so we have that comparison data from where we were at last year. And then we're going to end with some notes on, we have some paraeducators that were able to attend a responsive classroom core training this fall, and just talking about how they received that and some of the positive feedback we had from them on that one. So to review, this is our MTSS structure for social emotional learning. The last time I presented in front of you, we talked about the universal screening and adding our panorama. Tonight, we're focusing on that universal instruction and our core instructional practices, primarily with our core curriculum at the K-6 level and our approach as well with responsive classroom. So our SEL core curriculum is at the K-6 level. We are doing 5-5, and we're not going to talk a whole lot about secondary tonight, but we are still in our second year of implementation with In Control and Can Do You. So 5-5, I'm trying not to be too repetitive, but Woodbury's in their first year. One of the biggest changes that happened with Can Do You and In Control that I'll just speak to briefly is now that we're in our second year, our counseling teams are really focused in on that data points of our curriculum implementation. And one of the updates that Can Do You and In Control now have is the ability for us to track the responses and what we're doing, like when the teachers are presenting those lessons. So we have those data points to really start drilling into what are the lessons, what are they receiving for the lessons, and the skills that they're receiving. So we are doing that through our PLC processes. To talk a little bit more about Woodbury, and Annelle's behind me, so at the end, if we have time for questions, she's there if we need her. But at Woodbury, during the first year of implementation, Heidi did state that she has noticed an increase in the use of key vocabulary and skills among both staff and students, which is great progress. They are still working through typical challenges such as time management and organization. The overall implementation has been going very well. She is looking forward to strengthening the delivery and then continuing to make the necessary improvements for next year. In speaking with Heidi and Annelle and just observing what they're doing, Annelle did agree it's really that systematic, just kind of trying to figure out how it fits in, organizing the time when they are able to implement the lessons. Teachers do seem to be very receptive of the lessons, and they're starting to see how this can be embedded and incorporated into everything that they're doing throughout the school day, which is our end goal always when it comes to social emotional learning. To talk a little bit about Fly 5, again, some of this is just kind of a reminder to go over it again, but Fly 5 curriculum does talk about CARES, which is cooperation, assertiveness, responsibility, empathy, and self-control. All of these do align with our core competencies for SEL. So when we talk about what we want our kids to know in terms of their core competencies of relationship skills, self-awareness, responsible decision-making, social awareness, and self-management. Those are our 5 core areas. I want to talk a little bit about CARES, and one of the things that makes this so exciting is the work our schools have done in really embedding CARES into their core approaches with social emotional learning. This has become, they have redone, so a lot of the expectations which used to follow that PBIS format, we have taken those formats and really integrated CARES to give that full on, like we want our vocabulary to be the same, we want the teacher language to be consistent, and they have done a remarkable job. And I will tell you a little bit of a story. 2 years ago, I was at a Castle Exchange, and there was a booth and I happened to have just getting to know kind of the directors and like kind of the head people of both Responsive Classroom and Fly 5. And it was actually our district that when I approached them and I just said, our counselors want to know how can we really embed CARES and Fly 5 into our Responsive Classroom approach, because we're doing both, but it didn't really seem it together for us. And so we were kind of trying to figure out, we were doing it ourselves. It spiked their interest. Last year they came and kind of did a whole spiel on us and were in the classroom to see what it looked like. They have completely taken over, and what you see behind you is it's really them embracing that whole concept, because when I said like our counselors want to do this, they were like, let us think about how we could do that. So we kind of helped them along the ways, but it really is just a testament to how we are embracing both and really leading the way in what we're doing, and it has really shaped even what they're doing and how they're promoting their program. One example of this is on the next slide. And so all of our buildings are now really focusing in on that CARES. Again, it's about keeping that language consistent. It's about reinforcing the skills that we want our students to know. Next highlight we're going to go into is our responsive classroom. And again, this is the second year of our consultant observation feedback visits. We have a wonderful consultant, Margie, that has done both years of visits for us. So she comes in, spends the day at the schools, she goes into the different classrooms, and she has a measurement that she goes through to just kind of look at where we are in implementation. The responsive classroom, this would be the next slide. Thank you. So responsive classroom takes those core beliefs and guiding principles and also teaching practices, and they create their 4 areas of implementation along with their core belief, which is in order to be successful in and out of school, students need to learn a set of social emotional competencies, cooperation, assertiveness, responsibility, empathy, and self-control, and a set of academic competencies, which is the academic mindset, perseverance, learning strategies, and academic behaviors. And then these are their 6 guiding principles that you have in front of you with the presentation. And then if you scroll down, these are the 4 domains that these visits come in and measure. So it's the engaging academics, where teachers create lessons that are challenging and connecting to our students' interest. It's the community, the positive community that they're providing for our students. This is where we really encompass that sense of belonging and safety, so kids feel safe when they walk in that classroom, which promotes learning. And then we have our development and responsive teaching, where we are using that pedagogy, we are using research and observations to create learning environments that are appropriate for our students and their age levels. And then effective management is how we create an environment that promotes our autonomy and our focus. The way the observations work is she comes in all these different areas. She scores it from a 1 to 3. So 1 is being emergent, 2 is mid. That means we're kind of in the progress. We're getting there. 3 means that we are doing exceptionally well. It is not very often that schools ever score a 3. And there's only a couple districts that she works with that consistently score 2s for that mid, and we're one of those 2. So overall, let's dive into some of the data. So here's our overall scores. This is district-wide, what you're seeing in front of you, and these are in the 4 domains. The blue line in front of you is where we scored district-wide implementation last year in those 4 domains. The red is for this year. And as you can see, we have grown across the board in all 4 domains with the red. Okay, then I'm going to break it down into each domain by school. Again, we're seeing a lot of growth. We have seen a couple schools, Fisher being one of them, that has completely just skyrocketed in their growth this year. But across the board, this would be the effective management, which this is where we're using our interactive modeling, our classroom organization, and things like school-wide signals. So how we're managing our classrooms. The next one would be our positive community. This is how we incorporate our cares into our classrooms, into our morning meetings, our teacher language. Are the classrooms using calming strategies when needed with behaviors? It's also when we use like our hopes and dreams in the classroom. So that is creating that sense of belonging again. And this is where we were at. Again, a lot of our schools completely knocked it out of the park in terms of the growth that they made from last year to this year. The next domain is engaging academics, and this is when we're using that pedagogy to make sure that our lessons that we're teaching in the classrooms are developmentally appropriate for our students. It's our interactive modeling, so how we're modeling the things we want them to learn, how we're doing our learning objectives, is our curriculum and what we're learning engaging, and is the student choice and voice, is it present within their learning throughout the day? And then finally, this is where we're at for developmentally responsive classroom. And this is how we're teaching and we're modeling those social emotional learning skills and competencies that we reviewed earlier. It's also how do students see themselves in the room. So when they walk in, do they see themselves? Do they see their birthdays on the wall? Do they see examples of their work in the classroom? Again, promoting that sense of belonging. It also talks about how well do students know, or how well do teachers know their students, and how well are they building those connections with them. And then the last spreadsheet we have is the non-classroom spaces, which we do go and observe. This one, I broke this one down by specific areas, but it's the district-wide average. So as you can see, we do really well. Again, we're almost up to the 3 on some of these. It is also very apparent the areas that I think in every building we continue to struggle with, and that's kind of entryway when all the kids are flooding in and out, and also with the cafeteria. So those non-structured spaces. I will tell you though that the cafeteria one on the average doesn't show it, but sitting in the feedback visits with that consultant, we have done a lot of improvements, and she's seen so much improvements just in the buildings that she was in. It was something that she continuously complimented on. So those are our non-classroom spaces. All right, so moving on to the core training for the paraeducators. And in August of 2024, we sent, it was just over 60. Normally we have 30. We had a session of 34 and a session of 30. And we invited our paraeducators to come and attend the 4-day training on responsive classroom. And this was the 4 core-day training that all of our core teachers have also been invited to attend. They were very excited for the opportunity to be there, and their feedback was just extremely positive. Overall experience, when we surveyed them, they rated it on 4 to 5 stars. Some of the most useful things that they received from the training was their teacher language, just kind of being able to know what that teacher language is in responsive classroom. The 4 domains, knowing what those were, and then understanding the developmental stages. I think all of them, they received the book called The Yardstick, which really breaks it down by age levels and developmental stages on how just getting to understand what those developmental stages are. So when they work with students, they know that. Things that they appreciated from the training, they said learning development and appropriate responses, teacher language and modeling, and again, the book Yardstick. And how has the training helped contribute to creating a positive, supportive classroom environment? A lot of them commented how it's just really helped them collaborate and work more efficiently with classroom teachers. They really enjoy knowing the reinforcing and reminding languages. It keeps that language consistent and positive. So, and then the overall with that one too, that was on the slide, but just the fact that they feel like now they kind of understand things more and they're able to collaborate with teachers more. Here's your feedback from the paraeducators, and these are direct quotes that I took from them, and this was a variety of different paras. I would love to have an annual or biannual refresher course. If there was additional training available, they would sign up today. Another one said they would like to have more SEL training and how to handle certain behavior situations. And then overall feedback, every day that left them wanting more. They wanted to thank the district for investing in this valuable training. Receiving the same training as teachers received showed them that they're valued part of the team. Being on the same page as the teachers, it's easier to support and assist when they're in difficult situations. And also, this by far was the best PD training that they have ever attended in their 18 years as a paraeducator. In the past, they were usually disappointed in PD day, but they felt like this was, they just filled an obligation, but not this one. It looked forward to attending each day training, and they learned so much in the 4 days. So they came early and stayed late. So those were the quotes from some of ours. And that's pretty much it. Did I make it under the 10 minutes? I think I did. Pretty close. Next steps are scheduling another session of responsive classroom training. One thing that we're trying to work through right now is that responsive classroom has changed their training from a 4-day to a 3-day. So with that, we also get the option of doing kind of a 3 consecutive, a 2 and 1, 1 and 2, or a 1, 1 and 1. Obviously, if the more times they have to travel, the higher the expense. But we are looking and considering doing a 1-2-day format, which would allow us to train any new staff that come in on that one day they have during new teacher orientation, and then we could follow up at the end of the year with the second 2 days. That would allow us to kind of bring in teachers that still need training and get all of our new teachers, get that core, the main components that they need to get the year started, and then at the end of the year follow up with the next 2. We're going to continue to support trainings as necessary and focus on our secondary approach for social, emotional, mental health is where we're going next. So, any questions for me or for Anil who's sitting back here or Shauna?
What are the recommendations from the consultant to continue to accelerate, especially with the 2 schools that went backwards in every area?
The biggest thing that we continue to see is making sure that we are letting students see themselves in the classroom. They need to have that ownership. When they walk into a classroom, they see their names, they see their work, they feel like they belong in that classroom. That was kind of a core area. Another area, school signal, when it came to effective management, a lot of them are working on that school signal, but just that constant, like we have a school-wide signal, so no matter what space we're in, we have that piece and it's consistent. Another area was, probably one of the biggest things that she continues to recommend is that we integrate our cares and our SEL skills and lessons into morning meeting. We do a phenomenal job implementing morning meeting and doing morning meeting. It is a lot of times more academically focused, and so taking an opportunity to really bring those SEL skills and even cares into morning meetings and just kind of encompassing both. That was probably something I heard at every single session that I sat in.
One the other thing I would say that I found interesting in connection with that data is those 2 buildings have really been commendated for their implementation of it by that company when they come visit. So, again, this data is one point in time, and
It is, and it's one person, so there is a little subjectivity to it. The other thing I want to note is I know Anson The timing of the trainings are different. So this year it was mid-year, and I believe that I know Franklin for sure, and I believe even Anson, they were more towards the end of the year last year. So, and I definitely know that timing on when we're doing these feedback visits have a big say in it, because we know the effect that just the school year has on staff and the buildings. And so I would not doubt 1 minute that that's not part of our result as well.
Well, this might be news to Nell, but most of you are aware that we've been members of a national cohort of school districts from all across the country that have been working together to try to figure out how to continually improve in this arena. And in many ways, we're a model for the country in this work. And so they've been pushing for a few years now to want to have a national visit to Marshalltown of that cohort. I mean, we've been to Oceanside, California. We've been to Virginia Beach, Virginia. We've been to some pretty, Naperville, Illinois. It'll be Schaumburg, Illinois this year, which are very recognizable districts in the country. And so we were on the docket for next fall for a visit from these schools. I'll be seeing the leaders of the cohort this week, actually, at the National Superintendent Convention. So we'll need to talk about what the possibilities and probabilities are of that. I mean, I think we're very well positioned, but with Matt's departure, that kind of put a little bit of a hiccup in it for us. So, but it's largely a credit to you and the work you and Matt have done leading the district-wide committees and doing work with the buildings where the real work happens to put us in that kind of light.
And it really is attributed to the counseling and the administrators in the buildings too, because they've bought into it. They're giving it 100%, and teachers they're seeing the value in it. And I feel like that's where the real gold is. That is what is making a difference. And when we are in these national groups and they're constantly asking, just the fact that we find time in our schedule in an elementary building to put this like SEL and teach and dedicate time every week to SEL lessons is unheard of. And so, it's there. I'm always getting asked the question, how did you get that to happen? And it's like, we have a district that buys into it. We have a district that supports it and believes in it. And so we make it happen, but it's not easy.
We have time in our professional learning schedule as well, and the buildings have what we consider building SEL time. So they have the autonomy to really focus in on what learning they need. In an academic world, if we had similar results like what you were just noticing, we would drill down into that data and say, okay, what is it that we were missing and what kind of learning do we need to have happen there? So
and they are doing that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't want it to feel like it's going unnoticed. I think that we have, both of the buildings are very committed to SEL, and I'm really proud of all the work that Val's done with the counselors. I definitely want to make sure that we drill down and just figure out what is it that we need to do together. It could be a matter of we've got a few new staff members that haven't had the opportunity to learn, or it could be that we've got teachers that are feeling pressure to put something else in place instead of some of the work we put in front of them. So we'll dig down into it and just make sure that we're still right sizing, and it's kind of a part of any implementation plan with anything that we put in place.
And I think part of what we're seeing too is just continuing, SEL is not just something we learn, it's how we're modeling and doing those things every day and how we continue to integrate it into everything that they're doing, teachers, students, and all the above. So whether it's teacher language, whether it's interactive modeling, whether it's, reinforcing these skills that we want to teach in morning meeting and just really focusing on that sense of belonging. They know the goals, they know where they need to be, they're looking at the data, and they're just still striving to make progress. And the other thing too is I know we did have a couple buildings that we're looking at why it declined a little bit and what are the areas in that. We are still, though, even when the consultant comes in, even with our numbers, she said she only has 2 districts, and all the districts she works with that scored numbers like we do. So we're doing amazing things.
Well, I just want to appreciate, just kind of say something about, the training you guys had for the paras. I think that's, anytime we can value their work and make them feel like they're valuable in the classroom, especially with the learning, the teaching language, like you said, and just really giving them that knowledge to work efficiently with the teachers. I really appreciate that.
Any more questions? Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Justin, are you coming up for this early graduate?
Sure.
Seems like maybe you weren't expecting to. I don't know.
But I can tell you a little bit about it. Been in contact. Sorry. Did contact that parent, so it is a junior that wants to graduate. Told them the opportunities, if they stayed next year, all the opportunities they could have through MCC. The nice thing, career ready. So this young lady's obtained her CNA certificate and has been doing some CNA work. Sounds like maybe there's a possibility she'll leave Marshalltown for a short while and maybe want to do some CNA work somewhere else. So that was ultimately the decision. And it's late, and I recognize that December 1 is the cutoff. But Mom and the young lady were trying to decide, really want you to do this, and she ultimately decided she didn't want to do that. So that's where we're at.
Any questions? Is there a motion to approve the early graduate as presented and pending fulfillment of all graduation requirements?
So moved. Second.
Wise, Faltus. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Justin.
Good evening. Starting off tonight, we're just going to talk about boys bowling. They went to state for the 11th consecutive year this year. They won their district as well, and then they competed in the 3A state tournament, and they placed 7th at state. Another highlight for the athletic programs at Marshalltown, the boys Bobcats, the basketball team, they versed against Limar in the second round of sub-state. And they lost 48-83, a little rough one, but it's okay. We still support our boys out there.
On the 22nd of February, the Health and Careers Club went to Iowa City to visit the Stead Family Children's Hospital. The students were able to speak with fundraiser coordinators and hear about the different organizations and initiatives they've engaged in, such as the dance marathon. The students also toured the hospital and were able to learn about the different levels of it as well. And this event is a really great opportunity for them to explore different career paths and understand what it's like to work in healthcare. So yeah, overall it was a really great experience and the students were able to learn a lot.
So recently there was not all school, but Lenahan Miller and MHS vocal concert, and it was 5th through 12th grade. Each school sang a song, and they ended the program with all the students singing together. And for this event, it was directed by Miss Wisecup and Miss Osi. And I know just some people were there, and it was a really good experience for the younger students to see just the older students and how they sing and how they can improve in this ability and just this kind of school unity with that.
Coming back to boys wrestling, highlighting again. You guys already got briefed on this a little bit by the boys themselves, but again, Xavier, He won 3-2 in his semifinal match, taking him to the sub-state final. Unfortunately, he lost, but he still brought home a silver medal for us, and he was on the podium first time. Like Coach Cross said, it's been a long time since we've had someone go to the state final, so that's a great thing for us. Nick Wise also went. He got 7th in state, which is great, and both of them made exponential progress towards their goals. Nick Wise, I remember last year he didn't make it to state, and this year he worked really hard to get there, so we're really proud of our boys.
Here, so real quick before I talk about the IJAG event, boys and girls track started last week. I forgot to make a slide for this, but they started last week, and we're in the second week of practice, and so yeah, it's really good. I was late because I had track, and I know Caitlin had track too, so it should be a really good season for the boys and girls. And the girls team looks like there's excellent numbers out, a lot more than last year, and about the same amount for the boys. So all good there. Now for the IJAG event, Senator Warme met with the MHS IJAG students, and just kind of like a Q&A question came up with it too, and this was really good for the IJAG students to ask questions about career, as that's one of the main points of the program, and it was very insightful for them just to see what it takes to be a politician, as this is Senator Warme's first term in the Iowa Senate. So it's a very good experience for them, and it's, very impactful, and hopefully they can do great things with this.
Any questions?
It looks like Mr. Tronis is still helping out with the Health Career Club.
Yes, very much so.
Okay. I didn't realize that, so that's good. Okay, thank you guys. Book study? I wanted to thank them for their presentation.
So we had chapters, I think, 16 through 18. These chapters actually resonated with me probably more so than any of the chapters. The chapter on showing up in terms of being present. I thought there were a lot of great points that Eric made in that. And then probably the most powerful one for me, and it took me back through memory lane 40 years when I started teaching, was how powerful words can be, whether they be positive in terms of making a significant impact on whether it's students, teachers, parents, or colleagues, or whether it be negative, which I think applies across the board everywhere, from the home to the workplace. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree with that there, and I thought these 3 chapters were the best chapters in this book so far for me. Just they resonated the most with me. I mean, so that particularly just show up, like how important it is to just be there for things sometimes. Yeah.
The portion about his parents not going to his.
Yeah.
That was a hard.
That was a hard one.
Paragraph to read.
That was a hard one. Yeah.
Now that I'm just hearing.
Yeah.
I agree with that, and that's something that same thing, just resonated with me, not just in the workplace, but as a parent. I had all 3 of my kids played sports, and just made me think of all the things that I did to be present, and just the smallest little thing, like I sat in the same section every home game, just so when they look up, they know I'm there. Just the little things, they knew that, oh, there she is. So just to be there, even though win or lose, our Bobcats, it's just being there, it's a big, big deal. Same thing with work, and that's something that I talk to students all the time. Like, attendance is so important to being present, so, yeah.
Yeah, I actually had a situation today where a grandparent reached out to me who was wintering in warmer climatic conditions and wondering, because I know everything, whether we were live streaming the play this weekend. And so I said, my guess is no, because a lot of times when we purchase the rights to plays or musicals and stuff, there's copyright restrictions to doing that, but I don't know for sure. Let me talk to some people at the high school and figure out whether we're doing that. Before I could get back to them, Grandma already had booked a flight to come back to see her grandchild in the play. So that I didn't connect the dots when that was happening, that it tied back. But my comment was, that's what grandmas do, and she's probably grandmother of the year now.
It's just so meaningful, whether it's the students or your children's, just to be there and show. I remember when my son played here in football, all his friends. I was probably one of the few Hispanics mom that showed up to every game, no matter if it was in town or out of town. I asked for vacation time to ensure I was there. And that made, his friends also want to ask his parents to say, hey, Tony's mom was there, and she works, and, her job, just going off and saying, can you try? Can you at least ask for the day and see? Because I think sometimes we grow up and, it happened to me, not always would I ask my parents, hey, can you be there for my game? Because I knew they had to work. But I think that, taught those kids and my son to tell them, hey, did you ask your parents if they can come? Because I asked mine, and she made sure she was there. And not always, in the Hispanic culture, do kids take that initiative to say, hey, I'm going to see if it's a possibility, because they know how important work is. And, there's bills to pay at home, but just having that person show up and, even make sandwiches, whatever it was, something small, it was just so meaningful to them. Even though we didn't really win any games, but I was still there.
Lege Pa, you look like you have something you want to say.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I guess I can share with regarding chapter 17. For me, I found it really impactful because it served as like a reminder of how much weight our words can carry. We often underestimate how the things we say can either uplift or hurt others, sometimes without even realizing it. And this chapter kind of just made me reflect on the conversations I have daily and how being intentional with what I say can make a positive difference, especially when it comes to encouraging others or supporting them through tough times. So, yeah.
So for me, chapter 18 stood out, just the idea of what you can sacrifice, if it's money, time, or even your ego. When, so many people are very busy in their lives, what can you give up? What's the one thing you can give up? Was kind of the idea I got. And in a day and age that's so busy and maybe self-centered at times, with conflicting egos about in every level and every aspect of life, just giving that one aspect up, and just willing to compromise and just willing to come together. With that kind of anecdotal story he had with, I think it was the parent Brad and their softball game, and just how they were willing to give up their egos and compromise. And that just, it's good to see that, we're still able to do that today, and that, maybe we can take a lesson from this and do this in our own lives more.
Anything else from anybody? Okay. Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello. Hopefully I have just a couple quick ones. This time of year is when we do what's called E-rate. E-rate is federal funding for network equipment and services. So every year we fill out a form. We fill out a couple forms that ask for internet services, and then we also ask for what's called fiber transport in between all of our buildings. So internet technically comes into just one of our buildings, the actual provider does, and then a different service carries it throughout all of the buildings. We've been with Windstream for a number of years. There have been a couple instances where it has been a problem that they have a lot of aerial fiber, so hanging on poles. As you know, we've had a tornado and a derecho. And then we also think that they lack some in services as far as transparency goes. What can we see so that we know if it's our equipment or if it's their equipment that's up or down? So we do a full evaluation. We're as unbiased as possible with what they're offering. They give us proposals. And this year we decided that we would change from Windstream and we would go instead to MetroNet. You've seen them digging in the ground. We like that they have in the ground fiber. We like that they're going to dedicate fiber specifically for us. We like the references that we've gotten from them from other communities similar as ours. People are already using their fiber. And we really believe that all of the kinks of them being a newer service provider will be worked out by the time that we would go with them in July. So I'm here to ask that we sign a new agreement with MetroNet. It'll be a 3-year agreement. The reason that we would do that is because it will cost them some money to actually do construction into each one of our buildings to ensure that we get their fiber into our buildings. So we would extend a 3-year agreement to them. It is a little, it's about $600 cheaper per month too from what we're currently doing.
Are there any concerns about E-rate funding going away? It's a federal fund, right?
My UEN group has several concerns with several things, but it has not been one that has come up specifically regarding Category 1 funding, which is this. This is for services. Category 2 funding is a little different, and every year there's some conversations about that, and that is where they give us a certain amount of money for actual equipment. A lot of the conversation that comes up is being more like a big buying consortium and getting the same type of equipment rather than giving so much autonomy to each school to get their own. So some of those conversations have come up, but I have not heard that there's a big concern regarding the fund for services.
Okay.
The other thing is I don't know if it really matters because I think we need internet, so I think it would matter in the end.
Would matter in the end.
Don't get me wrong, the price would, but I don't know that there's any provider that has given us a cost that would make a significant difference if we didn't have that funding, I guess is all I'm saying to that.
Okay.
You said other school districts are already using MetroNet and they haven't had any issues.
In Iowa.
In
yeah.
Iowa, okay.
I've heard a lot of concerns with MetroNet around here, the infrastructure of them digging around here. Have we looked at Heart of Iowa, more a local company for this project?
I have reached out to Heart of Iowa in the past. It was more around 2020 and 2021. I still think that it would be a good option. The difference is this company is coming in and putting in the ground fiber because they know that they can get other like residential and commercial entities to quickly jump on to their ISP services, their internet service provider services, and then help pay for all of the costs that went into the fiber. Heart of Iowa and or us would have to pay to install all of that fiber in the ground. So that's a huge expense if we're only doing it for us and having our very own ring or hub and spoke. So that's where I haven't been able to figure out how we would come up with the money needed to put fiber in between every single building of ours and under the railroad tracks. But that doesn't mean that's not something that I'm still exploring. In fact, my network admin and I had several conversations about private fiber. But we do think that we still are a couple years out, especially with some of the huge construction projects we're doing. We'd like to stabilize our fiber so it's underground and be on our own ring for a while and have it be a different provider. And then as we maybe wrap up some of these big projects that we're doing, continue to explore, and we would with local. And I would like to say too that when we do E-rate, Heart of Iowa does have the opportunity to always bid, and so far I've never gotten a bid from them.
Any other questions? Then is there a motion to approve a 3-year contract with MetroNet for fiber internet for approximately $825 per month with federal funding to cover the remaining $7,425 each month?
So moved. Second.
Faltis Hernandez. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Abby, you want to click the next one?
Internet bill.
I think I have one more. The next item is mine as well, and this is something I come to you for every year, and this is our typical replacement of Chromebooks. So we have put in a big replacement cycle that says every kindergartner, second grader, fifth grader, and ninth grader who's new to that grade gets a new device. And every other year, every 3 years, we don't buy second grade devices to ensure that every device we have gets used by a student for 4 years and then goes into either a loaner situation or gets fed into our system for at least 1 more year so that all of our devices are being used for at least 5 years. Then we consider them obsolete and sell them and continue on with this cycle. So this is something that has been budgeted for, and it's a pretty consistent process at this point. So again, I'm just suggesting numbers that are similar to what I've suggested for the last 5 years. And what this is we're requesting proposals. So I'm not asking you to approve a proposal tonight. I'm just asking you to let me go out and ask our vendors to give me some bids.
I think I've been around long enough that this kindergartner has come around before. Is it a 5-year cycle or a 3-year cycle?
It's a 4-year cycle, but every device is 5 years.
Because I think, 2-3 years ago, we did a kindergarten. I see it's on here again.
Right. And I could actually show you, we looked really in depth into it. Last year we did kindergarten and preschool devices, but what really happens is the kindergarten device goes up to first grade. So we're, yes, replacing kindergarten devices, but then next year we won't replace second grade devices. So then all of those devices feed up. They just follow the kid as they go up. So what we buy this year will be first grade, then second grade, then third grade, then fourth grade, and then have a loaner year. So it might seem that way, but this year will be the year that what's called our T552s will go completely out. So those devices are 4 years, and that's what these devices are replacing.
So essentially, you're getting 4 years, and then there's leftovers in case someone breaks one for that fifth grader.
Yes, and that's always really handy because our teachers and paras use these devices as well. Our subs use these devices. We use devices for registration. We have carts at the Welcome Center. We use carts for ISASP for like MVA students. So we do need quite a large quantity of loaners every year to fulfill all of those things, just to ensure that we can keep things going smoothly and no one is without a device. But if you wanted me to show you, I could really show you how they age out, and how I think last year was the only year we've bought kindergarten in 5 years that I've been here. I think 2020 was the other year. So this will be the second time, but it's to replace an aging device.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Then is there a motion to approve seeking proposals for the annual Chromebook replacement as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Wall, Morales, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is a resolution supporting the continuation of our instructional support levy. So I've touched on this the last couple meetings. During the budget presentations, the ISL generates about $2.2 million per year for the district and can be used for any general fund purpose. Our current ISL is funded through a combination of property tax and income surtax. As I've shared with the board during the last couple of budget presentations, looking at increasing that income surtax percentage from 1% to 4% starting next year, which would still, at least on the income surtax rate, would still keep us much lower than most of the districts surrounding us. While our ISL doesn't expire until fiscal year 26, it's recommended to start the process now because when the board renews, it's good for every 5 years, but it can still be petitioned to be put on a special election ballot. So in the event we are petitioned, we want to start the process now so that we can be prepared to hold a special election if needed. But otherwise, nothing has changed from the prior budget presentations, the information that I've shared. So looking to have the board adopt this resolution for continuing the ISL and then setting a public hearing for March 24th at 5 o'clock.
Any questions? This is the same, you're not changing anything in the resolution or the IS, we're not doing anything differently other than perhaps increasing the.
Correct, yeah, because the resolution itself is the same. The resolution even states that it should state that it's a combination of property tax and income surtax. It's at the discretion of the board each year of how you want to counterbalance that.
Right, but this is nothing.
Correct, nothing new, just a continuation.
Is there a motion to approve the resolution to consider continued participation in the instructional support program for a period of 5 years, commencing fiscal year ending June 30, 27, and setting a public hearing for March 24, 2025 at 5 p.m.?
So moved. Second.
Wise, Stanley, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 7-0.
The next item on the agenda is another resolution. This one is allowing us to pre-levy on our debt service. So as I've shared in the previous budget presentations with the structure of the construction projects and timelines, it was determined that the upcoming bond issuance this spring will be sales tax revenue bonds to fund the Franklin Field project, as well as the audio visual enhancement, and then starting the design phases for Miller. So we won't actually be issuing any GEO bonds until probably spring of 2026. But what the voters approved this last November was, yes, the $57 million in bonds, but which was essentially also allowing us to levy a tax rate of up to 270. So the recommendation is to pre-levy this fiscal year 26 up to that $2.70 levy. What this will allow is roughly, at this time, an estimated $2.5 million of extra project dollar costs to go towards the project, and also allow us to pay down the bonds about 3 years sooner than what we originally anticipated. So no changes on that since the last presentations that I've shared with you. And as we'll touch on the next agenda item, we're still projecting an estimated increase of $1.23 for our tax rate, which is lower than what we had originally anticipated, which we originally anticipated $1.28. So I will field any questions on the pre-levy at this time.
I don't see any. So then, is there a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $57 million in general obligation bonds and levying a tax for the payment thereof in the 25-26 certified budget year as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Was that Sarah?
Yes.
Okay. Faltus. I got nobody. Who was it over here?
Morales
was it Maria?
or Wise,
Okay.
yeah.
Faltus Morales.
Yep,
Or-
let's do
yeah.
that.
All
It
in
was a
favor?
tie between Liz and I.
Right.
Yeah. We'll keep it balanced. There you go. Sides of the table. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. That motion carries 7-0.
All right. And the last thing I have tonight is approving the proposed property tax statement. Again, nothing has changed since the last time. We're still waiting on the legislature to make a determination on state supplemental aid, which may tweak this a little bit, but the deadline to have this information to the county auditor and the Department of Management for is for the tax statements to go out is this Wednesday, so we have to act now. So recommending the approval of the tax statement, and then this will also set the first public hearing or separate special meeting for March 24th. So we'll have 2 public hearings that night related to the fiscal year 26 budget, but no changes at this time, still at that 1598 overall tax rate, and that's with the increase in the voted PEPL, the pre-levy of the 270, and then the adjustment to the instructional support income surtax from 1% to 4%, which allowed us to manage that.
Any questions? Comments? Then we need a motion to approve setting a public hearing for March 24, 2025 at 5 p.m. for the proposed 25-26 proposed tax notice, and directing the board secretary to publish that notice in compliance with Iowa code.
So moved.
Second.
Stanley Faltis. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 7-0. And we're at policies.
They're both here. Yay.
So we have 3 policies coming back to you for a first reading. There have been no changes since the last meeting to these. 905.1R1, we added points of contact to certain facilities that were listed and updated referenced policies. 905.1R2, community use of school district building sites and equipment fees schedule. We added Franklin Field as a new facility in 2026, along with associated fees there. And then 905.01E3, an exhibit for the renting of facilities. We added Franklin Field to that as well. A couple of these policies will come back by next year because we'll need to add the Orpheum Kitchen as another facility that could be rented, but it's still not at a point of ready to use yet. But I would recommend that the board approve all 3 of these amendments and waive a second reading.
Are there any questions?
So for the, what is this one? For the 905.01, like the Orpheum already, it says already Orpheum there, so is the kitchen a whole like different? Like there's the list of rental
Yeah, we just fully renovated the kitchen at the Orpheum
Okay.
into a small production kitchen from a warming kitchen. And so, and we did that project so that it would be available to lease as well as for district use. So if people that are doing catering now but operating out of their kitchen would prefer to have a off-site location to do their work. They could rent the kitchen for that purpose. Or if people have events at the Black Box, for example, that would involve food, there may be a need or desire for whoever's providing the food to use the kitchen.
Any other questions? Then is there a motion to amend 90501R1, 90501R2, and 90501E3 and waive the second reading?
So moved. Second.
Baltus Wise. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 7-0. And Sarah, you had initial reviews, right?
I do. I have 3 policies. 905.02, tobacco nicotine-free environment. No changes. Recommend mark as reviewed. 906, unmanned aircrafts and drones. No changes. Recommend mark as reviewed. And then 906-R1, unmanned aircrafts, drones regulation. No changes. Recommend that we mark it as reviewed.
Any questions about those policies? Then they'll be marked as reviewed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Abby, you have any additional communication items for us this evening? No? Okay. The musical is this weekend? Is that right?
Musical, student art show is this weekend as well. I feel like I'm missing everything because I've been working on like 7 press releases. Yeah, I think those are the major 2.
So is the musical just Saturday or is it Saturday? When is it? Because the art show is Friday. I mean, art judging is Friday evening.
But
And the show is 1 to 3, I think.
Art show is 1 to 3 on Saturday. And then for musical.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
Friday, March 7th, and then Saturday, March 8th, both at 7 p.m. at Marshalltown Performing Arts Center. Cost of admission is $7 for all ages. MHS Activity Pass will be honored.
And it's not live streamed.
What, school board password?
It will.
If you go, you can meet that grandparent though, so.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Abby. Looking at reminders, our next board meeting is March 17th. And St. Patrick's Day. That's right. Wear your green.
It's not. That's spring
Oh, it's
break.
not. It's the 24th. That's spring break.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a special
Yeah, special
board
meeting on
meeting tentatively on May 10th. And then we will also have another special board meeting on March 10th. And then we'll have another special board meeting to entertain potential recommendations on the Franklin Field project and also have the board get updated on the progress of the Reimagine Miller project on Thursday, March 27th. So it'll be a busy month, but we have 3 weeks between now and the next board meeting.
Yeah.
Regular board meeting.
The 24th.
Yeah.
Okay. Committee reports. I know Acer met last week.
Yeah, we had our quarterly Acer meeting. The county talked about the lost election for the areas other than Marshalltown that are tomorrow and the importance of that. The city is mirroring our school district in terms of the number of different construction projects they're undertaking, but they provided some updates on all of those, including the Main Street project, which bids will come in tomorrow for that. So Randy's going to be attending that, and depending on how those bids come in on our two alternates, we may be piggybacking a 15-minute meeting on the front end of that behavior meeting on the 10th, because that's also the city council meeting night for which they'll be taking action on the Main Street project. They also have, like us, some new hires with Park and Rec Director and Housing Community Director. I think there's some others, City Planner Assistant Director, which was repurposed from a prior position they had had. Carrie Teskey from the AA said all of these entities talked about being hot and heavy in the budgeting process. Carrie said the AA is working really hard to engage all of their districts to find out what their needs are going to be, because they're going to have to present their budget March 20th, I believe, to the Department of Education. Dr. Hauser-Boyens talked about MCC's enrollment being up 8% from spring of last year to spring of this year, and talked about a super exciting housing plan. They're looking at increasing their housing of student capacity by 115% over the next, I think it's 4 years.
5 years,
But large part of the work on that project will be performed by their own construction trade students, which will provide also a great opportunity for our construction trade students to go over there and see the significant building project and different elements of that in action. We have a lot to share that you're already aware of. And the other thing, I know Leah brought up the question with Amy about federal funds and stuff, or Sean did. ISU Extension's really worried about a number of the positions that provide programming within the district, both during the school year and the summer, potentially being impacted depending on what happens with funds that are, to provide equity of opportunities for kids, the SNAP funding, some of the STEM programming are all partly supported by federal funds. And I think the answer to that, nobody knows for sure what may or may not happen. Hopefully I'll get some insights this week as I listen to some of the federal legislation advocates for the National Superintendent Association. I'm sure will be bringing us up to speed on what they know at this period of time. But it was a good meeting.
It was a good meeting, yeah. Any other committees meet since the last time we were all together?
We did have some board facility committee members that attended the core team meeting Friday for the Reimagine Miller project. I don't know if anyone wants to share on that.
This just kind of early impression, they did some updates talking about how they've been working with the staff and showed different classroom sizes and models and kind of thought through process. I think they said around 10 to 15% through it. At the very end, they showed us a very, very impressive video, very impressive of what the potential that it could look like. So I think the board's going to be really excited, and not only that, the community. So.
Yeah, I would agree. I thought it was very thoughtful how they were putting together classrooms, and then also spaces that they had questions on. They were asking questions to the principals and how they would like to see, those areas, what they would like to look like. And I would agree. I thought it was really cool. So the community's going to like it.
I thought they were asking good questions, talking about, a lot of maybe our teachers don't know how to use the classroom setup that they're proposing, or what the future looks like. How do we teach them how to use the spaces?
So I would agree.
Yeah, and that was one of the challenges that we had with the high school CTE project that we had to work through with teachers because, when you're used to teaching a certain way or within a certain facility constraints, you don't know a whole lot other than that. And so what we don't want to do is just purchase and renew what we've already had for the past 100 years. So it's a great opportunity to think outside of the box in terms of classroom configurations and different types of furnishings and that sort of thing. So that'll be an ongoing process. But what you saw, I saw for the first time, which was based on at least 2 or 3 days of Envision engaging with the teachers themselves to find out what they as individuals or collective groups within their departments wanted to see happen. So.
Any items for a future meeting agenda?
I have just a question. So with how big our district is and just how big our, just our district, student body, staff, schools, and the amount we use Abby, has there ever been a conversation about expanding our communication department? Just the marketing. I know I feel like she gets overwhelmed, that's just she expressed, but I just.
Kathy's good at advocating for the communications department.
I just,
They
like, I
approach
work
that-
for this, I also work, for MCC, obviously, and we have a team. And I just look at it and compare it, I'm like, we have a team of 1. And over there, we have a team of 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And
Districts that have communications departments are all over the place with how they staff, some more, some the same or less. We've taken the approach at the current time to contract out a lot of work with people that are creating content and stuff for us to help providers support, in addition to also having Betty, our receptionist. This was a decision made back when Adam was here to provide, and what they do that's not receptionist related is communications related and providing help and support. But I'm sure there'll be ongoing conversations, just like there are with many of our departments, about wanting more people.
Okay. I know I've talked about it, but with separate, different partners and with Matt's position being split and seeing the plate that he had, it was very visual. I wondered about that, so.
The only other thing I can think of, and I see that Eric's over here, so I'm going to ask. Over the weekend, I got a lot of questions. Had someone reach out about safety with when parents do drop-offs or pickups, and I know that we've worked jointly with the police department over the years. I don't know if we need to revisit that again, and I don't know if there's a better way. Do we pay lines better? Is there specialists? Is there a different way that we can help ensure safety for the kids?
Is this supposed to be for future meetings?
Yeah.
This is supposed to be for
this is not
future
on the-
meetings.
Right, yeah, this is not on the agenda. This
Okay.
is just an item for a future discussion, perhaps. Okay. Any other items? And I guess, can I ask a question, Zach? Are you talking specifically like crossing the street safety or?
Well, I think the traffic flow, when people pick up the kids or drop them off, some people don't park properly or park in another lane. How do we direct traffic better, right? And I know the police department is limited on staff too, but is there a better way traffic flow in any of these schools that we could look at?
Okay. Okay, what have we done this evening to improve education for the students in Marshalltown?
New Chromebooks for the replacement cycle and fiber, so internet. Yeah, the fibers, so that's important.
I really enjoyed seeing the Fisher presentation, even though it was a small group that came, but the data that they bring, the visit just was great, and I love the data wall just to see it. It's very visual, and their numbers are amazing. I mean, to be proficient in every grade, that's 50% over each grade that's a proficient. That's nice to see.
I also like hearing from the social emotional learning and see the stats, the data, the increase. I know we had 2 schools decrease, but the other ones all increased.
We hired a new high school principal.
Yeah.
And you talk about showing up. Justin's been here every time those kids have presented. Every meeting, Justin is here when those student reps are here presenting to the board. That's showing up. So,
Agreed. He's at a lot of events.
yeah.
So that's fantastic.
Anything else? Then we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Wall Faltus, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 7-0. But you can't leave because we have an exempt session.
See, we have another.
Nice try. I'm gonna go get pizza.
You can't go get pizza.
Thank you.